Peace, everyone, and welcome to another Fresh, Bold, and So Deaf Initiative panel. My name is Kachima Hutchinson. I'm Associate Director of the Hip Hop Education Center. And today we're going to be having a panel titled Motherhood and Hip Hop Highlight the Dimensions of Resilience of Mothers in the Culture. For those of you who are not familiar, Fresh, Bold, and So Deaf Women began as a hip hop feminist intervention project for women of all ages to empower, cultivate, and inspire. The project builds upon the foundation laid by the Womanhood Learning Project, launched in 2007, excuse me, at the NYU by the Hip Hop Association and the collective of women who joined forces to tell stories of hip hop as they know it. Once again, thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us what you think in the comment section. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to the Fresh, Bold, So Deaf, Dr. Irma McLaurin.
Good evening, everyone. And I am so privileged to be here among what I consider women and hip hop royalty. And this is an opportunity, I think, for us to share with people sort of the background of how women have shaped hip hop and the culture around it. And the one thing that often happens is that we don't necessarily connect hip hop and motherhood, as two words that come together, and yet everybody has a mama somewhere. And so we need to talk about that, because in some ways, motherhood is kind of a hidden discussion that we need to have. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to ask everyone present to introduce themselves as I call on you for the first time. And if you can mute your mics when you're not talking, that way we don't get any background noise. But I came to hip hop, and I think I'm the elder stateswoman by way of my son, Antonio Elevation, who started working and doing hip hop when he was in middle school. And people would come up to me and say, "You let your son do that?" As if there was something wrong with the music and culture. And now it has become a global phenomena. It is part of mainstream culture. There's a national museum that celebrates it. But what gets missed is the way in which it was mothers who supported a lot of the artists and performers and the music, who permitted them to do this music that was going against the grain at one point. And so I'm very privileged to be here. And I'm going to start with some questions, but before I do, I want to do a circle and have people introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Queen Heroine.
Thank you so much, Dr. Irma. Honored to be here with everyone today discussing motherhood and hip hop. My name is Queen Heroine of the Juggernauts. I am a mother, an MC, an educator, done some curating, part of the education committee proudly of the Universal Hip Hop Museum in connection with the Hip Hop Education Center, and of course, Fresh, Bold, and So Deaf. I wash clothes, I cook dinner, I do those things, homework helper, all of those things. So I'm just really honored to be here in this circle of fantastic, phenomenal women talking about hip hop and sharing my stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Silky D, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, I am the first female DJ on the West Coast, mother of the community, I'll put it to you that way, a founder and CEO of a company, Ladylike, also part of the Universal Hip Hop Museum as an entertainment director for the West Coast region, and just a community activist, as well as mothering. I think I'm still mothering a lot of young people, being a great advisor and mentor for. And it is an honor and pleasure to be here along with you, Dr. Emma.
And so let's hear from you, Asia.
Peace, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this awesome discussion. I go by Asia One, B-Girl, and with that comes a lot as well. Of course, a mother to a daughter, mother to many community members that consider me like a B-Girl mom to them. And just doing the mama workload. We were talking about it earlier, just organizing a lot of traits that are momish, like organizer and all that good stuff. So that's who I am and what I be.
Thank you for that. And if we can hear from you, La Bruja.
Hi, thank you. Wow, this is so exciting to be on this panel and celebrating our womanhood and our motherhood. I'm a spoken word artist, an MC. I'm born and raised in the Boogie Down Bronx. I'm a Puerto Rican woman. My children are big now, you know, they're not little. So now I've been able to treat myself like a little girl and nurture that part that, you know, we put to the side as mothers for a long, long time. My son is 23. My daughter is about to be 21. And I'm feeling like I'm 19. And I'm just so excited. I still host at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, which is where I started on an open mic. So I host open mics. It's gone international during this pandemic. I mean, we've survived this pandemic, you know, and here we are together. And I'm just so thrilled. I do activist work. I still do teaching artist work, making short videos, just a little bit of everything, and also developing an art space in Soundview, where I'm from.
I want to co-sign on what you just said, because what you said is that we do a little bit of everything. And what I heard from all of you was this sense of mothering as something that is about organizing and nurturing and supporting, but also doing a little bit of everything. And so what I'd like to do, and you've given us a little bit of that, La Bruja, and maybe you can pick it up, is what does it mean to mother? That when I know what it means when it's with our children, but what's the broader for you when it's not just your children, but you feel like you're mothering other people? If you can say something about.
Well, you know, in the open mics, I feel like I'm mothering because I'm holding space for people. Sometimes people say the most intimate things. It's like they're absolutely raw and vulnerable. And, you know, I hold space and make sure that there's a level of respect maintained within the room. You know, it's being protective over people that you don't even know, but you're connected, you know, and that's basically how I feel like I mother, you know, people all over the world, youth. I mean, I had a 12-year-old girl come out on the open mic because she felt safe to do that in that space, you know, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be able to show unconditional love. I didn't know unconditional love for myself until I loved my children that way. And I was like, wow, I don't love myself like that. You know, so I've been learning about unconditional love and loving humanity, elevating consciousness, you know, is very layered, but absolutely rooted in matriarchy and mothering.
Great. And Silky D, maybe you could add to that. We were just talking about your daughter not too long ago. And so maybe you can add to what La Bruja just talked about. What does mothering mean to you? Your own child, but also in a broader sense.
Well, I'm a celebrity mom. It just so happened that not only I became a celebrity, but my daughter is a celebrity. And it's a very humbling experience to have when you have not only birthed, but mentored, managed, taken care of, have a lot of concerns, to the point where she took off with her wings and elevate or evolve. We all want our children to evolve or to be better than us, or to go into the next phase of extending and carrying the torch. With that, along with her, I've been blessed to have so many youth come into my path where I ended up taking care of them just like if they were my own, disciplining, giving that, you know, that advice of what they shouldn't be doing. And I'm still doing that to this day, you know, getting frustrated or concerned, or just like if they were my own. I think mothering just don't stop when you are maternal and you really care about children, or you really care about the youth, even up to the age of probably their early 30s or their middle 30s. I feel, because they're still making a lot of decisions and right choices, and they're going through so many things. Especially now, it has been more of a concern, considering to the Black Lives Matter movement, the COVID situation, not having employment, uh, giving them advice how to be who they are for those who are artists or want to be artists. You know, I'm finding it very difficult or hard, or can't believe that with the age of information, they still don't know. And they look towards us. I mean, that's the blessing that I can say, that they look towards us because we've had the experience to go through, or the network to even connect to them to continue to get this type of support.
I wonder if you could add to that, Asia. I think that she said a lot of powerful things, and what might you add to that?
I appreciate hearing that. I do, because you said something that really touched me, and that's that, the experience part. And yes, you're right. In the age of information, we think everybody's got it. Everybody can figure it out. Everybody has the information. But what we really realize is, somebody told me something one time, and I always stick in my head, is that, if a person really knew better, they would actually do better, right? So we can hear a lot, we can see a lot, but to know is different. And that knowing comes from the experience. So I think what I've realized is, getting on in my years, is there's nothing that can take the place of wisdom, of experience. And that comes with being an elder. So that's why a mother is seen as that. And as, like you said, as we, our children, or the young people in general that we mentor, that we're always, I feel like I'm always looking out for anybody younger than me. Like I automatically feel like that. Like my elders, I look out for them, but in a different way. I try to receive information from them. But anybody younger than me, I just try to look out for, in that sense that, I've been down those roads. I've traveled those paths. I can see both sides of the lens of certain situations now. Whereas when a young person, I was very one-sided and one thought, especially as a young person, being of color, you're like, this is the way it is, and it's the only way it is. I don't see this other way. And you realize that the way people have learned to exist and cohabitate for this long is by being able to meet and discuss and connect. And so being a mom, we embody that. Like, we really don't shut doors. We always say the door's always open, especially if you can take care of these things that I need you to take care of. My door's always open for you. We don't have like non-negotiables, like, nope, that's it, I'm never talking. Like, we can't do that as mothers. We haven't even been able to have that ability allowed to us in many respects, because we are caretakers. So I think that I would add that piece in there.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I was thinking that because all this information is out there, it's overwhelming to the youth with all that information. So it's important to be able to guide them through and give them a direction. So yeah, I just wanted to just add that.
And I wonder, Queen Heroine, if you could maybe bring it all together and talk about your understanding of mothering, because we've heard some amazing voices and ideas about what that all entails, and it's a lot.
Certainly. Well, I definitely agree with everything that was said. As a mother, every single mention and note and comment that we shared thus far is accurate. One thing I would say, as I was thinking of what Asia One said, just to piggyback on that, with no doors being closed, I think that is a major difference for us. Where I know with myself and my daughter, when she was little, the one place I thought I could go for a moment was the bathroom, whether I needed to use it or not. I'm going to the bathroom for a moment just to get a mommy moment. And lo and behold, she was coming in the bathroom too, and so that idea of no doors and always having access, accessibility is key. But I think there's a gem in that, because that's where that sense of safety, and I know La Bruja said that sense of safety, we're feeling like you can always come to a mother. There is always a sense of, whether it's a balance, and this is another distinction, I think. There's a balance of strength, but there's a gentleness. See, and that yin and yang that mothers, I think, innately just understand and have as part of our nurturing makeup, that you can seesaw between that, a little bit of strength or a lot of strength, a little gentleness, firm but still loving. It's a chemistry, right? And I think that that's something that mothers, we just understand what's needed. I think there's a sense of intuition, and even on a spiritual level, even on just the way that our bodies are made up, we're receptive. So we understand, we're receivers, we're very in tune and empathetic to what people need by nature, right? And so I think that that helps us to assess what our children need, whether it's our actual biological children, or like, as again, La Bruja mentioned, whether it's in stage and performances, and people who just need to feel safe so that they can be vulnerable enough to share who they are in a space like that, right? Or like Silky said, it just in the community itself, right? Sometimes as an educator, in addition to being a mother, I've been an educator too for, 20 years. And so I have students who call me mom, who come to me, and of any ethnicity. I've had students, white, Black, whatever, any cultural background, and they're like, mommy. And so when you can see, or a child can see beyond color, which is what we want them to do, right? Because at the base, we're human, right? When they can see beyond that and understand that this person understands love, and this is where I can go for nurturing, that's where real learning takes place. That's where real evolution takes place, whether we talk in hip hop or just life. So I think our role is integral, not just in the realm of hip hop culture, although that's a vehicle for us, but just in the stages of life,
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from all of you is that it's not, giving birth certainly is part of it, but everyone who gives birth doesn't necessarily mother, right? So we know that that can happen. And we also know that there are people who've never given birth, who've been sort of mother figures and given sort of all of the things that you've all talked about to other people who they did not give birth to. So there's a kind of way in which the notion of mothering is what you all have talked about, which is about this support, this ability to give safety, the ability to encourage, and at the same time be firm and let people know what the boundaries are. So with all of that and what all of you have spoken, my question is this: why haven't we heard more about mothering and motherhood in hip hop? What has been your experience in the culture that this is something that we're just not talking about? It's not like there've been flashing signs saying, oh yes, hip hop and motherhood. It's not there. So why is that, do you think? And what's been your experience as a mother in the hip hop? Let me ask you, Asia, if you'd like to start.
I would love to. Whenever we talk about hip hop, we tend to, our mind goes in two paths, right? We think of our cultural path that many of us here are always a part of. And then we think of the business and the industry of the music. And I think that those dynamics, that pull and that tension of those dynamics are always there. I think when we're talking about the community, I truly do, my experience anyway has been that I've been embraced by my community of especially B-boys and B-girls who, individually, I'll get a lot of reception from them, or they'll tell me little things like, oh, wow, I really appreciate this, or it never really hit me, these opportunities that you help present and create so that we could do this. Or, but I think on a larger scale, like when it comes to media, those stories weren't really sexy before, using that whole media term, a sexy story, it's like, I think it might be sexy now, which is cool because I think we've turned a corner a little bit with media where, we don't want to exploit women anymore. We don't want to create pieces about women that are just promoting the sexual imagery of women within hip hop music, especially. And now we're looking at women in this multidimensional way, motherhood, and really finally respecting this idea that, everybody did come from a woman, a biological woman at some point in time. So there's these truths that we just can't get around, right? That's just one of those. And I think there is a little bit of a reckoning now where maybe we'll see more pieces like this that are considered sexy stories by the news because they're actual caring pieces, they're socially relevant pieces. So I hope we do see more of those. But I think in the past it was just, there was that. I know many of us can have this experience as women that were skilled people within hip hop culture, that you always had those spaces where you come in and you're immediately like, okay, is she here as a groupie, or, what's she doing here? And we had to prove ourselves so much that actually I'm here just like you're here. And so us taking on that responsibility, another mothering role of mothering these individuals who think that we can't really be there, for whatever reason, and say, no, actually, we are here in this same space that you're in. So now those of us that are in this space realize that we're mothers to individuals that have, whether we realize we did this or not, now are able to be in these spaces without necessarily having to deal with that same situation that we did. And now we're promoting this idea, no, we're all peers. A peer in a space is that I'm not you, but I'm here and I have a reason to be here just like you do. So I need the same treatment as you would receive. I need that treatment too. Thank you very much. And those are safe spaces. Whereas before, when we had to be in these spaces, it was always looked at like, what are you doing here? What's your place here? Can I use you in some way, shape, or form? So having to recraft that imagery to our own people and then also to the outside media has been a role that's taken the past 20 some years. And that I think that we're moving in that direction. So that is, I'm thankful for all of you here that have really paved that way for these younger individuals.
And that's really important, is that, there's been a path carved out, and the people who carved it didn't always get the benefits of it. And I wonder, Silky D, you've actually now navigated this, not only your own career, but your daughter's career. And the one thing that Asia talked about was it's these two parts, that there's the culture on one hand, and then there's the hip hop business part, right?
Right.
Tell us a bit about your experience in both of those.
Well, I definitely agree with her. I think back in the day, or not too long ago, right? Mom is considered an occupation. They don't include us into what we do aside being a mother. For me, being a celebrity mom, when I'm around my daughter, DJ Spark, it's Spark's mom, or I'm mom. My daughter literally has to say, well, hey, my mom is the first DJ. If they don't know anything about my history, then she'll let them know, hey, my mom is also the first female DJ. And even at that, I'm still considered as Spark's mom. I just think people just relate mothers as just totally different. Like, we don't have a life of our own. Working it out as being a DJ, and then turn around and started her as a DJ. And then I managed her career. Even when I was managing her career, again, they did not take me as who I am as Silky D. They took me as, again, a mother. So I just think it's hard for people to separate what a mother, being a mom, is just doing all of these multiple things. After we've had a commercial to say I can fry up the bacon and throw it out of the pan, and I can work this job, and I can do this and do that, we became the super women. So super women, when you are a mom, they don't think of the other things, the other multitasks that we do. I think it's just a part of motherhood, and that's how the world accepts us, and that's what I have experienced. I do things in my world, and then in my daughter's world, I'm the mom in my daughter's world. So I'm still experiencing that today. Some of her peers, or they know who I am, and they support and they get around me and they love, they're excited and they know my history. But again, I'm still considered as being the celebrity mom or being Sparks' mom. So, I just think that that's just a natural thing about mothers and fathers, so to speak, when people are looking at us and they're looking at us as just as that um, persona of being like Asia said, the elder, or someone who's there to be the nurturing and the caring and the whole 9 yards. They don't look at us as doing anything else but of. And a lot has to do with our past history, how it's been shown in television. You see the TV mom, right? And then you might have the mom in the community that everybody relates to, and she's always the one probably in a gown or something like that and waving out the window, or always giving you cookies or whatever the case may be. So now I think we have evolved, especially like with Jada Pinkett and Beyonce and stuff. They have their kids is in front of the audience all the time, that they can see both roles that she has done, as opposed to, of course, I'm older. Back in the day, they didn't see that whatsoever. They always had separated me.
And what about you, Queen Heroine? What would you add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard not to have that expectation of what mom looks or sounds like, right? There's that expectation, that sense of superwoman is really powerful because you're constantly just doing, and you're known for doing in those particular roles, sometimes to the point that you almost have to remind yourself, like, wait, I'm an MC, or wait, I'm a DJ, or wait, I'm a breaker. Wait a second. Wait, don't get it twisted, because you get so caught up in the role of nurturing and mothering that you have to remind yourself sometimes of that connection to hip hop and who you are. And I think we often put ourselves to the side. I know earlier La Bruja was speaking about this idea of her children being older. So now she's like, okay, well, let me take care of me now. And I think that's such a relevant point, in that that's also, it's kind of just coming to me as I'm talking about it, the idea of sacrifice, right? And so there's so much that women, mothers also sacrifice through the role of motherhood, where sometimes we do have to put our goals or our interest kind of on the shelf for a moment, whether it's to help support our daughter, who's now, evolving like Silky, and wanting to see them go into the field and, that talent, DJ, let's do it. Even for myself, sometimes, okay, well, I may not have time to write a rhyme right now. I have to go help my daughter apply for jobs now. So sometimes it gets separated just because our innate role comes back to who we are as motherhood. And then I may have to write a rhyme at 2:30 in the morning when my daughter's sleeping. Right. So there is a major sense of sacrifice just in that relationship of trying to coexist as mother and hip hop, because it's embodied within the same person. But because of all of your roles as mother, sometimes you have to isolate, compartmentalize, and get back to that. And what I will say is that, there are women who I know stories of friends who, I have a friend who's a writer, and she has 5 children, one of the strongest women I know. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to get to that book, I don't know, 5-10 years from now, just because her role as mother has put a lot of her own particular things on pause. So sometimes just coming down to that idea of sacrifice and trying to juggle and balance, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to put down the one ball so that you don't drop all of them. And I think there's something to be said for the element of sacrifice in motherhood and artistry.
Yes. La Bruja, can you sort of bring us a close to this segment of it?
Thank you, Queen Heroine, for saying that. The sacrifice is absolutely true. I have I recalled many times over the years people asking me, why aren't you more famous? Why aren't you more mainstream? And it's because I made that sacrifice. I made the choice. Being a mother was more important than the mainstream. So I found a way to create a world where I could still be a mom. And it was more important to me to be a teacher. So then I was a teaching artist. I still was doing my craft and developing it, but not with that intention of being on TV all the time or being in Hollywood or, luckily I was able to get these roles. I was able to be on Def Poetry Jam. Maybe I was able to, make these little albums here and there and make these appearances. But my main role in my life was motherhood, and I am super proud of that, and my children are super. My dog is just wilding right now. My dog, she's always quiet, but now she has something to say.
That's another motherhood right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Could I add to that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Could I add to that? That is so true. Because during my time, your children were not allowed to be on the same stage as you. Your children were not allowed to come to you to come with you when you're working or doing your artistry and the whole bit. Yes, it is a huge sacrifice. It is not now. I think again, the women that are showing their kids on TV and the whole bit, and everyone loves it, or like Whitney when she had her daughter on stage at a concert. We were not allowed to do that back then, nor as much probably as we want to. It was a safety issue. You had to do extra as far as protecting, your kid. And the sacrifice is huge, and I still say, even now to this day, if you don't have it like that, to make that happen, that your motherhood kicks in first before your own personal wants and needs of who you want to be fully. There's been many times that, of course, maybe being the first, and I've been a lot of firsts just in my time of being who I am. And I chose motherhood as opposed to going for my career. That's something I didn't want to miss out on, with my daughter, and then to turn around and become her manager more so than as opposed to me being me, to make her dreams and her truth, happen as we do as mothers, supporting our kids' dreams and working the extra hard to give them the wants of whatever that they want to be. So I thank you for saying that, because that is a huge part of, I could say, of my life.
I actually worked with my children, brought my children, have them open for me. My daughter was performing at 9. My son was doing the sound cues at 11. They've seen everything behind stage, front stage. They've seen the ugly, they've seen the glamour, they've seen the struggle, they've seen it all. I've had my children there, and and you could see it in them now. They're both artistic. I guess I could say I'm managing my children's careers. My daughter does still perform, is going to School of Visual Arts. My son is, does his Dungeons and Dragons dinner theater and archery, and they're like old souls, and I took the TV away when they were 10. I did arts and crafts in the house, like, in Brewville, there is no TV. I had to.
I agree. Well, the beauty of it is that before I was managing my daughter, I basically made her a part of my business. I taught her the business of the game. I taught her the professionalism of it. Being the secretary, the legal, whatever the case may be, I had to do everything, because not only was I a DJ, I was also an audio owner, a woman who owned her own audio company. And, it was this little time and then I was an educator. It was a time that when I got home, okay, well, mommy needs 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, because I just need that break, right? From school, being in a classroom with kids, to come home to a house full of kids, even though she's the only child, her friends used to come over. And then when I come out, then I dealt with her with the homework or whatever the case may be. And then business calls, because my business was running in my home. How you answer the call, take a message and the whole bit. So I did teach her the business of the game as being a mother who had a business at home, just as well as being out here independently and choosing the time of, especially on Fridays, I was doing a club Friday and Saturday. And I still wanted my mother-daughter day. So it was like, all right, well, I need this little sleep at this time. I go and do my gig, and immediately after my gig, even though I'm coming home at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I still would get up. Talking about sleepless nights, sleepless days, basically. Get up and, hey, where are we going for breakfast, or to a movie, or whatever the case may be. So I never, even though I chose to still do me, I did not want it to interfere what I was supposed to be as a mom. I did not want that to take away from my full responsibility of being a mother. So this is where I say how mothers become super women. When you tend to sacrifice, or the sacrifice of knowing that, hey, I still gotta take my kid to school. I still gotta get up and make breakfast. I still gotta deal with all the issues. And don't let it be, if you have a mate on top of that, you still gotta be a wife or a partner, that you cannot neglect these responsibilities because you choose to do you.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens to be where the superwoman comes into the play, to manage all of that and still proceed to keep on doing and enjoy life on a personal aspect of doing some of the things that you love to do.
What's interesting is that if you make it look easy, if you make it look easy, people
You
think
make
it's
it look easy, but it's not
and it's
easy.
not. You know, we have to be
it's not.
mediators. We have to be, psychiatrists, psychologists. We have to, like, I've had to mediate. I have a son and a daughter, and raise them equally. And, outside, despite what society is teaching, because it's a patriarchal society, how to raise a gentleman, a man, that will uplift women, that are not homophobic, that are not racist, that are not, all these things that society teaches our children. We have to do all of those things. All of those things.
I'll add too that, when I think about what you mentioned, Silky, and La Bruja too, it's, a lot of the narcissistic, sociopathic elements of personality kind of come from being just self-consumed, right? It's just your decisions, your way. I'm gonna do it how I want, the way, motherhood just messes all that up. Just boom, 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 boom. Like, I think that it really helped me realize, how to actually put somebody in front of me, put someone's needs in front of my own, and their well-being in front of even my own to some degree. We have to be okay so we can care for our children and care for our communities. But what I mean is letting someone else shine instead of you shining. Like, that's bold. That's bold, fresh, and fierce, really. Like, to really let somebody else look prettier, better, more capable, and get more money than you, or what have you. Like, that's not the American way. And that's the way that, we've learned to be as mothers in hip hop. I truly believe it's about, look, it's not about me getting what I'm going to get. It's about, because a lot of people say, oh, when I get what I get, I'm pulling everybody else up. That's that mentality. It's kind of like, well, but look at the whole flip side. If I help you, I'm actually able to channel all of my knowledge, experience, all of that into another human being, another life, and see them flourish. If there's not something better that you can do than that, I don't really know what there is. That's a real amazing ability that we can do. And then again, as artists, then we change and we evolve. And honestly, I believe it helps us a lot, because we lose a lot of that self-consciousness that women often have. And, as mothers, because, oh, we're moms now. It's not as sexy. It's not as cute. It's not this or that. Actually, it's so much more, because we are no longer afraid. Motherhood, you lose fears because you have to be fearless. You put yourself in a lot of crazy situations to be a mom. And you lose so many of these fears that people have when we're just solely self-focused on ourselves. And that really allows us to flourish, I believe, as people and human beings. So that's one attribute of motherhood that I think it's often overlooked as well.
I totally agree. Even though my daughter is grown, right, I still keep in mind that I am a mom and I don't want to do anything to cause any type of um, soil on her. You know, my daughter is grown, and I still am concerned about if I do anything, especially being sexy, right? I think we all are entitled to be sexy, but I think there is a limit when you are a mother. And I'm very careful about, there are some things that have been offered to me that I would consult with her. Like, do you think this is okay? I just don't want to do anything to embarrass her in any kind of way, because even though she is who she is and I am who I am, in mind, hey, you just don't want to have that type of image for your grown children to have. I will never do a centerfold for Playboy, if it was not okay, or if it was some way that it would embarrass her or who she is. So as a mother, for me, I continue to think that I am still a mother, let alone, when you're out here and you're raising a community, you also have to keep that in mind too, regardless whether they're not yours or not, or how they think of today. And it's okay for you to get out here and shake your pants. I always want to show some type of role that when we take on to do as people in growth, that every 10 years there is a change about yourself, and there are things that you're supposed to represent or be an example of. And I don't think we have enough examples of who we're supposed to be when we get a certain age in growth. It's like everybody wants to be on the same level, and we're not. And this has been, for me, the issue of what I see in the youth and why they have no respect for the elders of today, or why they're looking at you and, oh, you're just like me and it's okay. I think as roles and responsibility, whether it's motherhood or being an independent mom, a single mom, or with a partner, we have to show some type of examples. This is how you be when you hit a certain age. It doesn't take away from your sexiness. Each and every one of you is on here is beautiful. I'm able to still, dress in style and fashion the whole bit, but still, all in all, guess what? There are certain things that belong to in a certain age. I will never do what we did in high school, to give an example, so we have to show these type of examples and look forward to that. I'm just glad that we've evolved as women, that we don't have to look like old maids when we get a certain age. See, we can still be beautiful and still rock it and the whole bit. But there is some type of responsibility and role, especially when you are a mother, and how the world looks at you, of representing in a certain way. So no, I will not be the hot mama in the centerfold, because I know I have a daughter out there that I want her to continue to respect me and be up, unless, again, if it's okay for her and the fact that she loves me that much and it's appropriate, then I will go under her direction, instead of having other people coming to me to say, oh yeah, you could get out here and get it, girl, and look like a bamboo. So I think we have to come back to that, though, on our responsibility as women, as mothers, as artists in hip hop, and especially what hip hop means to me. The community is huge, and they need us to be that way for them to continue on. Like you said, Asia is bigger than us. And this is how I look at, in today.
What you're talking about is being a good mom. That's like, when you're considerate of your children's feelings, when you consider them, when you consult them, when you respect their feelings, their opinions. Not many parents are like that. I certainly raised my children listening to them and honoring their feelings, even if it was about me, being able to hear it without reacting and taking it in, and with the goal to just be better for them, be better for myself. Another thing that I don't really talk about is my son was a juvenile diabetic from the age of 2. So I was also his nurse. And back in those times, there was no patch or thing for you to, it was 2 different vials of insulin, the clear and the cloudy, and, giving him injections at least 3 times a day, checking his finger, changing the diet. And, like that was a whole other aspect that nobody knew, that I was going to the doctor. That was just, part of it. He was a baby. Which was also really traumatic. And somehow we still pull from somewhere deep where like there's a certain instinct of a one of them good moms. It's like, it's old. That's like an old mother energy that goes rooted to the earth. And, that's where I found it, in meditation and connecting to spirit and ancestors, and and that truth giving me the strength to push forward, and and thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to, what you all have talked about is resilience. We haven't talked about that. And I want to ask you the question of how do you remain, or how do you become resilient and remain resilient, particularly at this stage of your life? What words of advice would you have? But before we get to that, I want to lift up one thing, which is that earlier on, we talked about sacrifices that you had to make around your career and why you weren't famous and that. And I think the irony is that women who are mothers have to make choices that men who are fathers don't have to make, And we don't talk about that they were able to go on and build their career, but you all had to make choices, right? And that's something that we need to forefront, because it shouldn't be that way. It takes 2 people to create, that life. And because they were able to go and do those careers, it means that somewhere there was a mother who was doing all the things like Bruja you talked about, and that you talked about, Silky D and Asia and Queen Heroine. So my question to you, we're sort of moving into the last 10 minutes, and I want you to talk about what is it that keeps you resilient, on a personal level. How do you remain resilient? How do you, as a woman, as a mother, as an artist, how do you remain resilient? What words would you say to folks if they asked you, well, what do I need to do to sort of be in the space that, we all are in at this moment, which is that we're okay, with our lives, we're okay. And so how do you become resilient?
I want to chime in real quick, because as I was listening to everyone talk with the sacrifice, just a really quick story and connection. I remember many days having to bring my daughter with me to the studio, and she literally would lay down on the floor on the iPad or the computer while I was in a session in the vocal booth, and she'd be on like the egg crate, and come in pajamas sometimes. There was a day we had a show at Southpaw right before Southpaw closed in Brooklyn, and my daughter must have been like 2, and she was crying in the bed, and I'm like, Mommy has a show. We have to go. And she's always been a great kid, but tears, bawling. And I said, you know what? All right, put on her stuff, let's go. And I think there's something to be said for hip hop being a younger culture in the sense of, in regards to like blues or R&B and soul, in that, and I love her, so in respect to like Anita Baker, let's say, bringing her child maybe, to a show. I don't think with hip hop being younger as a culture that was as receptive. And also the aspect was brought up of like safety, right? So we brought her to the club and they were like, you can't get in with her. And luckily my brother's 6'4", he's like, oh no, we coming in, and it was just the first time that I had to really deal with the dynamic of bringing my daughter in a club for a show. She was in the back. There's all kinds of things going on, all kinds of things happening, but she was quiet. But this is part of the juggle. And I'm not sure, I think now it's more receptive that this is a part of our culture too with hip hop, but that necessarily wasn't what it is. I think there's a respect now that's new and found with Beyonce and people like that. And so I'm just glad that we're moving in the direction where motherhood is honored and respected, and that duality of having to do both. And it's seen and embraced now as like queen mother. Yes, bring the children. You know, Lauryn Hill too. You know, mothers who are like, no, they're coming on stage with me. So that's very important. And as far as back to the last question for resilience, I say use it. That's my phrase, use it, because I have created many songs and written many things out of even my own frustrations, out of the own pain, my pain. You know, use it for your artistry, use it for your craft, use it for your motivation, use it for your strength to model for your children what they may have to go through for any kind of obstacle in life, and you push past it, right? So you use that energy and you use it in a transformative way. So that's what I would say, to use it.
Asia, if you can give us your take.
Yes, I would love to. And I do have to piggyback off Queen Heroine just to do a short story. You know, the B-boy, B-girl community our community's been a little bit safer, I would say, safer spaces in general to bring kids to bring babies to. I was one of the first B-girl moms that actually brought my child around because, you know, they fly free, right? When they're like, can sit on your lap. So if I was going somewhere, she came everywhere with me. So what I would have to judge or battle, somebody's holding her right there. And I will say she grew up and became the person she is today as a 20-year-old woman, with a very good understanding of really what multiculturalism really looks like, what we really look like in hip hop as all of us together. And a lot of that is due to these amazing individuals in the community that welcomed her in these places and spaces. And I think we need to do better at that and do more of that so that people can bring their children. And hip hop has always been that, you know, and if it's not that, then what is it, right? So I think that it starts there, and then everything more adult, you know, whatever, that's getting where you fit in. But we do have to keep hip hop clean for the kids and open for the kids and accessible to the kids and families. I mean, that's basic. That's you know, we have a nonprofit and we do that. That's the only kind of work we do. It's multi-generational. We deal with the old school, the new school, the families, the kids, because that's what hip hop is. We can't grow and progress without anybody. We don't leave anybody behind because it's on them. Like it was on their shoulders. So we carry all of that forward, right? So I will say that it is that great work and that a privilege to be a mother within this culture, whether it is your physical child, whether it's your communal child. And I think that privilege is inspiring. I mean, it's something that you know, it's one of those good privileges. That word privilege, we take it in a lot of different ways, but it is a privilege to be a mother and an elder in a community and to be able to have this voice and do this work. I don't think there's anything other than that. So I would say it is the resilience part is that, you know, whatever you put in is going to grow. So you're going to see the results, maybe not always in your lifetime, but in another lifetime. So that's the beauty of the resiliency work.
Absolutely. La Bruja, and I'm going to give Silky D the final words.
Okay. What I was thinking is that I like to look at the bigger picture. Like I like to like elevate and look at the village, at everyone. You know, it's not just me, it's much bigger. It's not just my children, it's much bigger. It's not, you know, just this little community, it's the world, right? So I think about being, you know, on the right side of history, putting my effort towards something that when I'm old, that I could look back and be proud of, you know, where the journey instead of the destination all the time. So yeah, just the bigger picture, looking at the bigger picture and connecting yourself in that way, that means so much more than anything you can do, I think, individually. Silky.
Yes, Each and every one of you is all the things that I wanted to say. But most importantly, you have to love yourself, and you definitely need to know who you are. And once you know yourself spiritually, then you will know your mission. It is bigger than all of us. It is continuous of growth, of creating. We keep on, as they say, as the Bible say, you know, to procreate. That's exactly what we're doing. Whether if you didn't birth it, or whether you just adopt one, or whether you just take on one. I think our roles as women are being nurturers, love, social butterflies, being multitask, having a sixth sense, have a lot to do with what this world is all about and what we are all about. And I just say you definitely need to love yourself, feel your power, and achieve all the goals that happens to be bigger than us. And to enjoy and sit back and know that you have been a part of seeing someone soar and fly and become who they are. The beautiful part about it now is that they're finally giving us our flowers. Before, like you said earlier, you know, they take on our knowledge, we absorb it, and our brains have values. I want everyone to know that your brain is a value, and everything that you teach or adopt and you make change or be new is worth value. But people don't see it like that because they see physicalness of the dollar. And yes, we need to go back into our history. We need to go back to saying thank you to those who made you who you are. And the resilience is just always be grateful and always give respect to those who have been before us, which I'm blessed to be around women that I have admired, or they have inspired me, whether they've never met me, they have inspired me. And always to say thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And what I would like to close by saying is, first of all, enough respect to all of you all. What you have proven is that motherhood and hip hop is multifaceted. It is complicated. It is also filled with such amazing creativity. And that for me, resilience is about moving forward, not looking back, but like moving forward. And all of you are on a path and a journey of forward moving. And that's one of the keys to being resilient, you know, is not wallowing in the adversity, but making something new. We use that phrase, be the change you want to see, but I think that's what mothers have to do. We have to become what it is that we want our children, you know, to be. And that means too, as you say, Silky D, self-worth, self-love, self-care. That's also part of resilience as well. And so I think that we've like put a bookmark, you know, for Fresh, Bold, So Deaf on hip hop and motherhood. And I want to thank you all for being with us today. Okay. Thanks so much.
It was an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Blessings to every one of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Peace.
Continue, my queens. I thank you for being queens and to being the role models of what we have today in hip hop.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Enough respect.
Yes.
Ladies always first, mothers first.